Good morning, everyone. I'd like to go through something that was sent to me. It's vile, quite descriptive. You can go and read the article yourselves if you want. I'm going to skim through a few bits of it. Former carer jailed for 8 years over violent burglaries. Now, look, like I said, it's quite lengthy, right? So if you want to go into the article yourself or pause and read. A former carer has been jailed for 8 years for her role in carrying out violent burglaries at the homes of 7 elderly people whom she had previously looked after. 38-year-old Precious, my God, that is the irony, Moyoi, 38-year-old Precious Cunt, originally from Zimbabwe, who had lived in the Athlone Accommodation Centre. Oh, look at that. Pleaded, these poor people, and they're fleeing from war, are they? Okay. Pleaded guilty to burglary and aggravated burglary offences between June and September 2023. Additionally, a man has been sentenced to 6 years imprisonment for his part. Yamin Allah fuck off back home, 20, who came to Ireland from Syria to escape war, had an address at Warren Grove, Boyle, County Roscommon, pleaded to the same offences. The elderly men and women in question were aged 73 to 89. Right, so there's Milado, right? And then she admits to having intimate knowledge about their households, which is clearly why she got the job in the first place. So the entity in question here, right, had completed leaving certificate here and got a place in college, but then started abusing alcohol and drugs, probably from his time in the war, God help him, and was let go due to agency complaints. Just look at that top sentence. The former carer warned one, we'll be back. The first incident took place at the house of a woman aged 73, Miss Animal, wearing a high-vis top and a COVID-19 face mask, hung around her home for 2 hours before sneaking and taking a handbag containing €24,000. The Animal, who claims to have been a social worker before she came to Ireland in 2019, jogged to a taxi and went home. She put the fear of God into her victim, who constantly locks her house now, and her life has changed dramatically. This money was to be used for our funerals. My sister's heart and my own are now broken. Now we are so worried as how we will pay for our funerals. Oh, sweet Jesus. Oh, lost trust in people. On 30th of August, we're not calling her Miss, drove her accomplice to the house of another woman aged 89 with advanced dementia. The younger yoke knocked and told the woman he was looking for a missing person. She let him check the house, believing he was the Garda, but he stole her handbag, which contained over €200 and bank cards. The son's victim acted as her representative in court, saying that she had already had money stolen by the former carer, and this breach of trust added to her vulnerability and insecurity. 2 days later at 7 p.m, the cunt, wearing a wig, surgical gloves and a mask, drove the other cunt to the home of another former client. In a hard hat and wearing a COVID-19 face mask, the student tricked a 76-year-old widow into thinking he needed to check for a leak. He was let in, but a lodger disturbed him and he went upstairs and he fled empty-handed. The court heard that after losing her husband previously, that victim had cancer treatment and took out a lodger because she was lonely. The incident frightened her, leaving her constantly checking if anyone was at the door, and she got rid of her home carers. I've lost trust in people and I'm deeply suspicious of people. There's more. So another man awoke to the sound of glass breaking by a wheeljack being smashed into his house, right? The two intruders entered his bedroom and started shouting at him to hand over his money. His arms were held by the younger yoke, who pulled off his panic alarm from around his wrist. He was then pulled onto the ground and held down there. He tried to get up, but the little animal hit him with an unknown object and started bleeding heavily from his nose. He then pierced his arms a number of times with what was believed to have been a needle concealed in a glove. Can you imagine the fear? The pair stayed in the house for about 30 minutes and went through the deceased's wife's belongings. They left and again said, we'll be back. This man was bleeding but managed to get next door to alert relatives, but this took a while. He's seen on doorbell footage gasping and struggling to get help. Gardaí confirmed that his home was ransacked and there were pools of blood on the bedroom floor. This man has spoken about being constantly afraid that someone would break into his house that he built 50 years ago to raise his family. He implored the judge to lock them up for a long time because they are evil. The final incident happened on 8th September when a man with dementia and his partner in their 80s had 10,000 violently stolen by the two defendants who broke into their home in town. Mr. Cunt was armed with a 5-inch flick knife, and other cunt showed intimate knowledge of the layout of the house where the occupants had their possessions. Jesus Christ. In this heinous attack, she puts her hand over the man's mouth, restricting his breathing, and directed the teenager to remove a wrist alarm from the woman. In her victim impact statement, the senior citizen revealed that she and her partner lost trust, fearing it would happen again. The woman and her partner had since moved to separate nursing homes, she said, and I miss him dearly. Let that one break your heart. So this fella used his ill-gotten gains to spend on weed and a pellet gun. He told the investigation team that he went along with your one because she was into black magic called juju, and he would be protected if he did what she said. He said that she made him use the knife and that he was afraid of her. The judge praised the massive and painstaking Garda investigation that led to the arrest. The probe involved harvesting crucial CCTV footage from various locations to track their movements around the town and analysing fingerprints and DNA. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but could our Garda resources not have been used on some of our own homegrown problems? If these people weren't here, we wouldn't have to deal with them. Like, people say the most ridiculous nonsense things to me, like, oh, but the Irish do that too. I know. We already have to deal with them due to their homegrown birthright. Why would we want to add more? Why would we want to import more people like that? It's an absolutely bogus analogy. Or is it supposed to be some sort of logical equation to people? Why does that make it okay? And this does also bring me around to remembering how O'Groomer, when he said, oh, I don't know this person, I have no knowledge of this person. You do. You had plenty knowledge of the person. The person who falsified the Garda vetting forms and the qualifications for the carers. You knew him in 2 different capacities throughout your professional life. And God knows what other way. Okay? On 2 separate terms, which I have identified before and which has been identified inside in the Dáil by a minister. So you're a liar. Okay? Now, you are in cahoots with that fella. Simple as. You know exactly what's going on. And the fact that you say you don't know the man who falsified the documents of the people that you're bringing in here that are doing this to our vulnerable. Wow. Now, people of Era, right? This has meant, what has happened to these people, to our elderly, has meant that they have gotten rid of all their home help, which means no cooking, no shopping, no cleaning. Some of these people are not able to do these things by themselves. And now they're afraid and terrified in the country that they built. I mean, is this really what we're reporting? Is this the skilled workers that our economy so harshly needs? Our skilled workers are dotted around the globe because our government saw it fit to make Ireland impossible to be Irish in. That's the bottom line. We have our own people. We just need to bring them back. Attacking the vulnerable is the lowest form of law. A nationalist government is needed to ensure that our people will be looked after properly. We aim to rid our nation of crooks, traitors, snakes, imposters and abusers, whether presenting as government officials or as their guests. A complete overhaul is needed from top to bottom. The whole system is ripe with corruption. Brothers and sisters of Era, we must vote nationalists. Agus Déan Era Rosarísh and make Ireland great again.